Welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and today's guest, Michael Chopra. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. All good, thank you.
Good. We'll crack straight on. Obviously, another week goes by, no takeover, but I don't think anybody's worrying. We had Rob Lee and Lee Clark on the weekend, and essentially nobody's concerned at all about this takeover. Everybody who I speak to seems to think it's going to go through. It'll just go through when it's good and ready.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, it's been a big delay, a lot more delay than what us fans wanted. But look, the Premier League have got to do the necessarily needs, and they've had to do what they need to do with the Premier League. Now the Premier League's all sorted and they've given a go ahead of the dates. Hopefully now they can focus on giving the go ahead for Newcastle to be taken over. And I think I was reading yesterday or the day before, I think it was, that one of the main guys from the Premier League actually said that there's no problem so far with what's going on. Nothing's been blocked, which is a good thing. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, they're looking into it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just watching on Twitter this weekend. You know, we keep seeing people trying to put negative spins on it, and you know, Miguel Delaney's been at it again on Twitter, and you know, hammering Newcastle fans, and you know, just generally being a mischief for whatever reason. You know, I mean, a lot of people think it's down to him being, you know, supporting Manchester United. Who knows? But you know, I think the simple agenda he's got, breaking it all down, is that he is one of those people that doesn't like to see Saudi Arabia involved in sport. Now that's his opinion, that's his choice, and he's putting it out there. And of course, Newcastle fans are taking the bait. And I've seen some right humdingers, some right arguments. I think Andrew Musgrave got involved from the Evening Chronicle, which is saying that he was trying to wind fans up. I mean, what's your take on that?
Look, you get it all the time in football. Do you know what I mean? I've been in a similar position myself where I've had Twitter rows and arguments with fans and public people on Twitter. You've just got to take it with a pinch of salt. You know what I mean? Obviously, like you said, Man United fan. These had the chance to buy Man United and they turned it down. And when you're talking about the richest people in the world, and Newcastle United could be one of the biggest in the world, it's a big thing in football. Do you know what I mean? And nobody wants to compete, and especially as a Man United fan and the history they've got with their club, they expect to be the best in everything they do. And if the takeover eventually does happen, then I'm pretty sure Newcastle will be up there and challenging with the likes of Man United for the Premier League title and winning a lot more trophies. I think that's the only negativity coming from them type of people. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to see other clubs doing so well. You look at Man City, they've pretty much overtook United in the last few years, and Newcastle United will do exactly the same. They'll be ahead of Manchester United in seasons to come, and a lot of fans will be jealous.
Yeah, 100%. Amanda Staveley's been in court this week. Obviously, the big case against Barclays, which has seemed to have taken forever and a day to get to court. But I'm not sure whether you saw it. Obviously, the live feed was available for everybody to watch. I've got to be honest. I was quite a nerd and watched most of it, and listened to some of it whilst I was out and about. A lot of it's legal terminology stuff that you don't understand. And obviously when you're being cross-examined by the opposition, it's never going to sound good. But I've got to be perfectly honest. Watching Amanda, she really, really impressed me. Under the pressure that she's under, I thought she did fantastically well, and I think it bodes well. For whatever role she takes at the club once the takeover goes through.
Yeah, I watched it midweek, Steve, and I never come across Amanda before. Not many interviews I've seen who've been involved in, but when I was watching this court case, I was looking at it and I was thinking, this is a woman that's got drive, determination, and ambition. And I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's the type of people I want to be my football club owned by. And obviously, I think it was yesterday she got an apology in the court and that sort of thing. But yeah, she seems like a very bright lady that's got her head screwed on. Obviously, she's a businesswoman. What she's done for the deal with Man City as well, that was fantastic. and hopefully she can pull this off, because this is, I think, in football, in the football world, I think this is the biggest deal. And if she can pull this off in the Premier League, this will be massive. Not just because she's dealing with the Saudis, but it'll be massive for herself as well, because a couple of years ago, I think a lot of fans, and especially Mike Ashley, got a lot of negative feedback from her. And she could have walked away from everything. She didn't have to come back. But she knew her heart was in Newcastle United, and she stuck at it, and fair play to the woman. Like I said before, she's got drive and ambition and determination. That's what we need. But obviously there's a lot going on this week with the takeover, and obviously her court case. And look, her court case is massive, do you know what I mean? It's worth 1.6 billion. As a Newcastle fan, let's hope she wins it, and she can put some of that money back into the club. But no, I think all the fans have been watching, do you know what I mean? Because you're watching it in awe that this could be one of our owners, and you want to wish Amanda well, and hopefully she gets the right points across, and hopefully she wins the case.
She can get the cans in for everybody with that kind of win.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of people queuing up for cans. Like,
a couple of bottles of cheap rosé for Clarky as well. I don't know whether you watched on a Saturday, but he wasn't on the rosé yesterday. He was on cups of tea, and then he moved on to bottles of Beck's for the second half with Rob Lee.
Nash was a good lad. I get on well with Nash. And I've been out with him a few times, and look, he's like a fan, you know what I mean? You have a drink at the right time and you enjoy it. And at this moment in time, and especially what's happening with coronavirus, you've got to enjoy life as much as you can. Hopefully we can get some more good news in the next week or two, and then everyone can crack over the cans and crack open the bottles and get the rosé out.
Yeah, football's starting to return, Michael. We've obviously discussed it over the last few weeks, you know, what our thoughts are. I think both of us agreed that we're looking forward to it. Unfortunately, there's been a few issues for Newcastle. Certainly not on the pitch. We'll talk about the games first. Obviously, we've had to have, you know, some warm-up games, you know, a bit like a mini pre-season, really. And we haven't done too badly, certainly results-wise. I mean, obviously, the first game we were playing ourselves. I think we talked about that last week, you know, a 1-1 draw, Newcastle A and B. I mean, you'd expect a draw against each other. But we've had two games against competitive live opposition. One game against Middlesbrough, which, of course, were 2-0 down and won 3-2, with Joe Linton getting probably, you know, a much-needed goal, but a fortuitous when we watched it back on the actual official club Twitter. And then yesterday we played Hull City, 2-0 winners. So at least they've blown the cobwebs out, and winning's good. You know, it's a good thing to get into, isn't it? A good routine to get into.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're watching the Middlesbrough game and you've gone 2-0 down, I think people will be starting to ask questions. But you've got to give the players credit and the management, because normally sometimes people will think it's just a pre-season game, let's just get through it and get the fitness. But they wanted to win the game, and if you're winning games, it's a winning mentality, and it puts you in good stead for the Premier League when it eventually kicks off. Obviously, yesterday was a great result against Hull City. In my eyes, the defending was poor from Hull City. I'm not too sure how long they've been in training together, but it's a win. It's another win, and it's a clean sheet, which is the main thing. And obviously, next week it kicks off, and that's when it matters. Do you know what I mean? It was good to see Joe Linton getting a goal. Might be a good thing that there's no fans in the stadium, Steve, because I know he's been under a lot of pressure, but it might actually be a good thing for him that he's going into games where realistically there's no pressure on him. It's just TV cameras there. So it could be a good thing. But fingers crossed, we can get a couple of right results, and we can stay in the league and look forward to next season.
You say that about Joe Linton, and I've heard a few people say it on the show, you know, that maybe he will play better without, you know, fans there. Is it a struggle, Michael, at St James's Park? You've played there in front of a full house before. Is it a struggle, or did you turn that into a positive for yourself?
I think it depends on what type of player you are. I think if you look at, I'll use Alan Shearer as an example. Alan Shearer would want to play in front of 100,000 fans because he thrives on pressure. Linton's come to the club with a massive price tag, not a great goal scoring record in Germany, wanting the number 9 shirt, which is a big thing for Newcastle United, and he hasn't produced the goals. So the fans have a right; they're getting on his back. They pay the money; they can do that. The only thing for me is when I've watched him play, he's not been working as hard as he can. So then you take the fans away, you take the pressure away, and you might see a good player. Hopefully, we will see a good player, but you never know. It's a big price tag that he's got to live up to. But then, look, he can't play in front of no fans every single week. Do you know what I mean? He's got to keep doing it next season. He can't just be a player where I'll just turn up and play in front of fans. There's no pressure. And then next season comes, he turn out to be what he was like at the start of this season. But you've got to give him his dues. He's obviously been working hard during the coronavirus. He's keeping himself fit, and give him credit for that, because I know a lot of players would just sack it off, Steve, and think that the Premier League wasn't going to happen again, and just realistically take a holiday and just enjoy yourself. But he's worked hard in training, he's worked hard off season, and he's come back and he's scoring goals. So hopefully he can get a couple more in the Premier League.
Did it surprise you when you saw what he said in his interview? I mean, it's not the first time he said it, that, he doesn't put much, emphasis on goals. Goals aren't important. And I mean, that's a strange thing. That's a strange thing to say for somebody wearing the number 9 shirt. I don't think in the history of our club since 1892, even with the likes of, say, Frank Pingle and Rob McDonald, did I ever hear them say goals weren't important?
I found it strange at the start of the year, I think it was, when Steve Bruce came out and said he's not a striker. But Steve was continuing to play him as an out-and-out striker, as a number 9. Yeah. Instead of putting him on the wing and letting Mutu or somebody else play up front on his own. But now he's come out and said goals aren't important. Goals are important in the Premier League. That's what keeps you in the division. And if your striker's not scoring the goals, then it's going to be a tough one for the club to stay in the Premier League. You look at a lot of seasons when Newcastle United have survived in the Premier League, their goal scorers have scored pretty much all the goals. You look at Rondon last season, he was the top scorer, and look at the goals he produced and the points he won on his own. So for Joe Linton to come out and say goals aren't important, it baffles me, because he's a £40 million striker. He's been brought to the club. He wanted to wear the number 9 shirt. He knows that's a goal scoring top. But I think he's trying to put the pressure off his back by saying it's not important. If he scores, he scores. If it doesn't, it doesn't. To me, doesn't matter if he scores. That's what he's thinking. It's going into games, it doesn't matter if I score. Do you know what I mean? You should be dying to put the ball in the back of the net at St James's Park in front of them fans.
Yeah, 100%. And as I say, very strange. But let's hope, as we say, he can continue the scoring form that he certainly has at the minute, and take that into the remaining Premier League games, and keep Newcastle United in the Premier Division. The other news that we had this week was essentially about playing squad. Now, obviously, the Premier League met again for the final time about Project Restart, and the final vote that they put together was about the position that a lot of clubs had of wanting to alter that 25-man Premier League squad. Now, obviously, the problem we had was that Paul Dummett was injured and wasn't expected to play for the rest of the season, so he was omitted from Newcastle's 25-man squad. However, he's now fit. Newcastle can't alter the team sheet. They can't alter that 25-man squad, which means that we have a fully fit fullback, one of our, has to be said, one of our more, regular players, and somebody who we could really do with in the last 9 games. And he can't play. It's a crazy situation, and it's the Premier League clubs that have voted against this. So one would imagine it's teams who are struggling at the bottom, Michael, who essentially are looking at this and going, well, they're missing X, Y, and Z. We're not missing anybody. That's their tough luck. We're voting against it.
It's a tough one, Steve, and it's another tough one for the Premier League, what they're in a battle with, really, because you've got rules, and do you stick by them or do you alter them for certain football clubs? Obviously, the Premier League's the Premier League. They've got to stick by the rules, and it's a big shame that it's happened to Newcastle United. I'm pretty sure it's happened to other clubs as well, but even more so, Paul Dummett was probably, look, you know what you're going to get from him. Do you know what I mean? Every week he's going to wear his heart on the sleeve and put 110% in. Whether he's a good enough player for the Premier League is another thing, but you know what you're going to get because he's a Geordie, and that's what you need when you fight relegation. So it's going to be hard and it's going to be tough for Paul because look, he would have been getting himself as fit as he can and fighting to get back into the team, into training, thinking that you've got a chance of playing in the remaining games of the season, only for the Premier League to knock it on the head. I would have let them change the rules just a bit like the substitution rule have done. They've managed to bring that into play, so why couldn't they not allow the Premier League clubs to bring the players back that weren't submitted, their squads weren't submitted? It's a shame, really, and it's a big disappointment for Newcastle United, but we have to live with it, we have to get on with it, and like I said before, he's a big player that's going to be missed, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody else that can do that job there. Somebody like Matt Ritchie. Obviously, Jetro Williams is still missing, and he was a big player. And Danny Rose's loan's been continued. Whether he wanted to play in the Premier League or not is another thing. With all the comments he was coming out with, saying players are scapegoats and shouldn't be allowed and shouldn't be training and stuff like that. That doesn't bond too well with me. His mentality coming back into a relegation fight, really.
Yeah. Another bit of news with regards to players. Dan Barlaser, obviously, who had a great season at Accrington Stanley, 2018-2019 campaign. He's had a contract extension, and now the contract extension hasn't been announced, but it had a lot of people who were going a bit scratching their heads, and anxiety was spreading amongst the fans again on Twitter because people were thinking, well, if he's been announced and they're signing him on, and I think the quote that was used by Craig Hope in the Daily Mail was that Steve Bruce said he has a bright future at the club, and this. A lot of people were putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5, thinking, well, does that mean Bruce is going to be there, and does this mean the takeover's off, etc. But I mean, look, I watched Dan. There was certainly something there, but whether there was enough to offer him a contract extension, I'm not so sure. Shola Ramiobi seems to think there is. What's your thoughts?
He's a young boy, Steve. Obviously, Steve Bruce and the club at this moment in time, they're still owned by Mike Ashley. So they've got to do their necessary needs for next season, otherwise they would probably lose him. But then you look at Matty Longstaff, why they're not breaking the bank to sign Matty Longstaff? Why they've done so much they can with Dan? But it's one of them things, isn't it? People will be putting 2 and 2 together and thinking that. But as a fan, you've got to be realistic and you've got to think, well, the takeover hasn't happened. Is he going to be a Newcastle United player? I don't think so. He'd probably be a squad player. He'd be on the fringes. So if a new owner did come in and wanted to change things, I wouldn't have thought he'd be on massive amount of money as well. So even if you wanted to pay him up, it wouldn't cost that much. So you've got to think about that. As a footballer going into the last years of the last year of your contract, and especially the last couple of days and few months, you want something sorted, and you want something sorted pretty quick. And I think that's what's happened with him. Then fans will be questioning what's happening with Andy Carroll. What's happening with his deal? Because I'm pretty sure that might be next week or the week after. He's got to.
1st of July, we've got Andy Carroll. You've got Matty Longstaff, of course. A lot has been spoken about him, and of course Javier Mansour, which is another fullback. Some would say he's probably our best right back. A lot of people, mixed opinions on that position. But I think Manquillo's done a cracking job as a right back. At least he's a defender. But yeah, his contract up as well. So And Carroll's allegedly come out this morning. The headlines are screaming this morning that he wants to stay. Of course, he wants to extend his contract. He's a local lad. It's probably his last big contract. You would imagine if he gets the opportunity to stay here, and he'd settle back on Tyneside. So, but yeah, it's a strange situation, isn't it? That those three, especially Longstaff, because a lot of the fans are again anxious about that. They haven't looked at that, or at the moment they haven't announced that they've looked at that.
I think, do you know what, Steve? It's a tough one, and I'll go back to the Michael Owen situation, where you're coming into the last few months or the last year of your contract, and if you get a nasty injury, you could be finished. And obviously, these players have got games that they're going to be involved in. Yeah. Andy Carroll, all three of them will be involved in next week's game, no doubt. Then you're looking at Matty Longstaff. I know he's a Geordie, but will his heart be there is another thing. Will he be going in for 50-50 tackles, knowing he could get hurt? And if you get hurt, you're going to be out of a contract. You're going to be out of a job. Fans have to be realistic. Players have mortgages and stuff like that. I don't care how much you earn and that sort of thing. But that'll be in the back of their mind, Steve, and it'll be tough for players going into games thinking that, do Newcastle United really want me? My deal's up. And that sort of thing. It's a tough one, Steve. And when players have pulled out of challenges, I've been there myself. And you don't want to get injured. Sometimes you don't want to play in games because you're thinking about what could happen. You've got to think of the worst. And it's a shame, but that's reality and that's life.
I mean, neither of the Longstaffs played yesterday. Obviously, Sean's carrying a knock, I think.
Yeah.
Matty, of course, this ongoing situation means that he's probably not getting a run out. I mean, the starting lineup was Dubravka in goal, had four at the back. Manquillo played, Fernandez, Lejeune and Rose. Lejeune obviously scored against Hull. Bendeleb sat in front of the back four. We had Yedlin and St. Maximo Mappin. Shelby was playing just off the front too.
Yeah.
Almiron and Joe Linton. So do you think that's as close as we'll get to the starting lineup for Sheffield United?
I think you've got to pretty much play your strongest team. Do you know what I mean? In the friendly match, especially the last friendly going into a Premier League, and the players have to gel together. They've been away from training for 2-3 months. It's a long time. So you've got to at least give your best players and your strongest lineup that you want to play. You want to see them play and you want them to play together. I would pretty much say that'll be the team going into the game unless Matty Longstaff's fit. If he's fit or if the contract gets sorted, I think he'll come into it. But it's good that Shelby's further up the pitch because I think John Joe's got a lot of ability that you don't really see when he's getting the ball off the back four and pinging 50, 60-yard balls. I think he's better when he's further up the pitch, creating chances. And obviously, there's going to be, if you're playing two up top, then there's going to be help for Joe Linton. Do you know what I mean? He's not up there on his own. And look, Newcastle United have got nothing to lose. They're X amount of points clear of relegation, so they only need a couple of wins and they're safe. So why not try and go on the attack, especially in the 2 home games that are coming up?
Yeah. There's been no response from Newcastle United on the season tickets thing. Again, this is shambolic, really. I mean, I've made the point a few times this week that it just appears like Mike Ashley is, he's basically, sees the club as sold. He's dropped the keys through the letterbox and he's locked the door. Do you know what I mean? He's left. So I think the only thing that's operational at the club is the first team and first team affairs. And obviously, all the Premier League clubs now have announced what they're going to do to fans, apart from Newcastle United.
Yeah, and I think Newcastle United are the only team that hasn't refunded the fans. I think I was reading that in one of the newspapers a couple of days ago. All 19 clubs have come to some conclusion and refunded fans, and it's just crazy. It just shows you what type of guy he is, and that pretty much tells me that he knows the takeover is getting done, because he wouldn't, if the takeover wasn't getting done, Steve, he would be refunding the fans, trying to get the fans back on his side. But I think he believes that the takeover is happening, and he's trying to take as much money out of that club as possible. And look, it's tough, do you know what I mean? Because it's the fans' money, and they go to work, they work hard, especially Geordies, they work hard, and they look forward to going to matches at the weekend. I'm pretty sure that when the new owners come in, I'm pretty sure they'll try and compromise with the fans and try and give them some kind of refund, you know what I mean? Because you want to get fans on your side as quick as possible. And I know they're buying the club and the fans will be right behind them, but you've got to look after the Geordies, do you know what I mean? You know fine well that even if you're struggling in the Premier League, they're going to be supporting you. You're going to get 3,000-4,000 travelling up and down the country. So if you look after the fans will look after you, and rightly so.
Only other news really this week that's come out is it looks like there's been an extension to the strip deal. Are you a fan of the Puma strip? Because it looks like we're going to have it again. I think obviously that kind of thing again. You would expect the new owners to to come in and deal with that, but because time's ticking on and the actual takeover is ticking on, things do need to be agreed. So I read it on NUFC.com, but the details were quite sketchy. But they're expecting the usual, main strip, and then maybe 2, possibly even 3 backup strips. But are you a Puma strip fan?
Is it? Have they said how many years it's going to be, Steve, or is it just a
6-month
deal? Or
1 year extension is what they're expecting.
1 year extension.
1 year extension, yeah.
Well, look, Newcastle United could have continued with the strips they've got now. Do you know what I mean? They could have still worn the Puma strips up until the end of the season. Could be another Mike Ashley thing, getting money into the club, into his back pocket. But if it's only a year's extension, it's pretty much. I wouldn't have thought Puma would be the major sponsor next year. Do you know what I mean? I think it'll be somebody who's a lot bigger, that's got a lot more clout. But I'm not really a fan of the Puma strips. Obviously, you'd like to see the Adidas and Nikes, but I think Adidas have got a problem with Mike Ashley and Sports Direct. They won't allow any stuff to be sold in there. They're probably the best strips. Do you know what I mean? But look, at the end of the day, a strip's a strip, and as a player, you want to be wearing the black and white stripes, do you know what I mean? And putting a performance in for the fans. I just hope that. Do you want to bring a new strip out? Do you know what I mean? That's only going to be there for 1 year, and it's going to cost the fans a lot more money to buy. And that's another thing, because it's not one of them where it's Puma for the next 2-3 years, and the strips are going to be pretty much similar. It's going to be a totally different design if they go with a different manufacturer.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get back to the games that we're going to be playing. Obviously, the first game is on the horizon. It's a week on Sunday. It's going to be played in front of no supporters. As a fan, Newcastle fans, as we know, are one of the best in the world. And from our perspective, we're always called the 12th man. So. Yeah. How is it going to affect the team, do you think, not having the support? I mean, you've watched the games in Germany as well. How much do you think it's going to affect teams like Newcastle?
I think it will affect them, Steve. I think even at home, I know the atmosphere is not as great as what the away games are, but the fans are still behind the team. And I think it does give the players a lift. I know myself when I've come through the tunnel and you can hear the Geordies singing and the Bladen races are getting sang, it does give you a lift, and it'll be very difficult for players to really push themselves, because some players need to be playing in front of 40,000-50,000 to push yourself and to make you go that little extra step further. So yeah, I think it'll be a little bit of a problem for some players, and I don't think you'll see the best performances in some players. Because you know yourself, Steve, when you're in the game and things like that, and the fans are behind the team. Look, they put on a performance for the fans. Do you know what I mean? When you look at the big games, at the Man United, your Man Cities, your Chelseas, when that stadium's rocking, the team normally play better, and it'll be very interesting to see which players can perform when there's no fans.
Yeah, no, it will be 100%. Mike Ashley's Fraser Group. Did you see that this week as well? £97 million have spent on Hugo Boss.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's just another one of them things. Obviously, Newcastle United made a profit this year as well, with the latest tax reports, and you're thinking, where's all the money gone? And for him to come out and spend that amount of money on Hugo Boss and for all his retail and stuff like that, look, it just shows you what type of guy he is. And the sooner he's out of our football club, the better. He doesn't want to be there. He'd rather put his money into other businesses. He's a businessman. He's a good businessman. Let's just hope he stays away from football. Because at this moment in time, you can't run a football club when you've got all these other retail businesses and you're ploughing the money from the football club and the TV revenue and putting it into buying all these big brands.
Newcastle are obviously been linked with everybody at the moment, and it's, never a day goes by when somebody hasn't been linked. Today, the latest person that we're being linked with is Odsonne Edouard, who's the Celtic striker. What's your thoughts on him? Apparently, he's been monitored by Newcastle's current scouting team. The same scouting team said who brought us Joe Linton.
Unbelievable, isn't it? I was reading that on Twitter, and a lot of fans were saying they would pay 20 million for his song. Whatever the Celtic fans, the song they sing about it, the Geordies would love to sing the song. They said it would be 20 million well spent. Look, he's a good player, but my question is Scottish football, Steve. Scottish football is a lot different to Premier League football. And you just mentioned it, the scouting department that brought in Joe Linton. Look, anything could be going on with that deal. Do you know what I mean? If they don't think they're going to be part of this football club, then you don't know what's going on behind the scenes and that sort of thing. But look, as a striker, you're judged on scoring goals, and he's been scoring goals at Celtic in the Scottish Premier League. Hopefully, if he did come to the Premier League, he's got a goal scoring ability and pedigree that he might do the job. But it's a big question. Do you know what I mean? It's a big ask.
The other hot topic on Twitter this week, which is something which I didn't get involved in, and I'm pretty sure you didn't either, was the rather unflattering photograph of Danny Rose at training. Now, we all know that photographs, if they're taken at the wrong angle, can make you look slightly larger and put the pounds on slightly. But there was a bit of fat shaming going on amongst our supporters to Danny Rose. I mean, what was your take on that? Do you think he hasn't put the graft in, or do you think it was just a bad camera angle?
It's funny you say that, because I've seen a picture of Kevin De Bruyne as well last week, and KDB looked very big. And then I'm thinking to myself, look, he's a top professional. Do you know what I mean? There's no way he would have not been putting the hours in the miles and doing the hard graft. And look, it's a hard one with Danny Rose, because he knows he's not wanted at Tottenham. He didn't know whether the loan deal was going to be extended with Newcastle United. He come out with all his comments about he's being made a scapegoat and he doesn't want to go back to training. So then you've got to question yourself, what's he been doing outside of training? And you look at the pictures and it looks like he's not been doing anything, but only the players will know. Do you know what I mean? It could be a bad camera angle. We'd have to try and find some inside information from one of the players if he's been putting the graft in or not. As a player, as an ex-player, I would stick up for my professionals and would like to think that they've been putting in the hard graft, but you never know, Steve, especially with what comments he was coming out with. It wouldn't put it past me if he wasn't really doing anything.
Putting yourself in Steve Bruce's shoes, do you think he'd be looking at that FA Cup quarter-final now and thinking, I'm going to give that my best shot? Because I think a lot of people feel as if Newcastle are one win away from survival, looking at the bottom three as it is at the moment. Do you think he'd be looking at rolling the dice and thinking, if I can just win that FA Cup, maybe the new owners will give us a chance?
Look, I think he'll want to do as well as he can in the FA Cup. You look at the teams he's been putting out in the competition in the early stages, when they played Oxford in the other lower league team. He put out his strongest team as possible. I think he wants to go down in history as being able to win something for Newcastle United. Obviously, it's been over 50 years, do you know what I mean, since the last won something. It's a long time ago. And if he could change that, then he would go down in history. And in the back of his mind, he might be thinking that he might have a chance of being manager if he did win something. But look, in my eyes, he's got no chance. But I'd love him to get Newcastle United into the final. And there's been talk about the game against City being played at Wembley or a neutral venue purposely because, you're going to get fans turning up the ground if they win, do you know what I mean? Celebrating and that sort of thing. But yeah, look, he'll be giving it his best shot and trying to win something for the football club and trying to make a name for himself. No doubt about it.
You're saying you'll get fans turning up. I think, having watched what's happened, in the UK over the weekend, with people turning up, to protest and some people going with bad intentions, you would have to imagine that there is going to be a minority who is going to attempt to turn up at football games.
Well, I've seen it all in Newcastle, and obviously you get a lot of people trying to protect the memorials, which is rightly so. They're a big thing in the UK, do you know what I mean? They served their country, and why should people try and smash them down just because of what's going on in the world? Do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable, and give them credit that they're trying to protect them, but for them to be fighting with the police and that sort of thing, I think it's wrong. Obviously, people have a right to protest, but do it in the right way. Do you know what I mean? Don't destroy the city. Newcastle's a beautiful city. Do you know what I mean? Don't destroy it. We love it. We love going out there. We love going to the town. It's nice on a Saturday and Sunday afternoon. But I think it's absolutely crazy with people talk about the 2 metre and the 1 metre social distancing, and you're getting people right next to each other and police officers next to each other and that sort of thing. And you don't know if the government needs to go on a full lockdown again just to try and calm it down and sort it out. And anybody that disobeys it, just arrest them and put them in prison. Prove a point. They've got people. I think the government have to really crack down on and go hard on people to prove a point. Do you know what I mean? Just to try and get these people to stay indoors and to stop protesting.
Yeah, I would agree. I just think it is a big concern. I just think there's been a lot of mixed messages, certainly over the last few weeks, about what people can do. And without turning this into a political debate, it all stemmed probably from the Dominic Cummings situation, which escalated, and then people going out. But yeah, the football is our main concern, and ultimately you just really want to get the message across to Newcastle fans as best you can. Do not go to the stadium. It's pointless. You're not going to get in. Standing outside is not going to benefit anybody. And you're far rather staying at home and staying safe and watching it on your television at home.
Well, I think if the Newcastle fans stay away from the ground, I think the Premier League will be a lot more open to actually having the games at St James's Park, and that'll help the players a little bit. You know what I mean? You can stay at home the night before with your family. You don't have to travel and be away from your family, which I know is a big thing for some players. So if the fans can put up with not turning up at the stadium and realistically just having a good look at yourself and not being stupid and silly about things and sitting in your house, enjoying it, having a couple of beers and enjoying it at home. Let the players do what they need to do, and then eventually when this coronavirus is all over and the pandemic's finished and you can go and celebrate, and you can do all that, you know what I mean? You can celebrate with fans and stuff like that, and it might take a year, but you can't actually do it. Just don't be stupid and spoil it for some people and players especially, do you know what I mean? And I know myself playing, look, they know the pitch, they know the area, they know the surrounding. St James's Park's on a hill, they know which way to kick in the second half and that sort of thing. and it does help. So let's just be sensible when it comes down to what you need to do and realise what the rules are.
Yeah, 100%. The Chronicle today are saying that the Premier League have agreed on, after communication with the Newcastle United Supporters Trust, that they will intervene with regards to the ticketing issue that they have at the moment. So at least that's some positive for the Newcastle fans, that they will find out, hopefully over the next week to 10 days, what's going to happen with regards to that. There's an interesting article in the Chronicle as well. Les Ferdinand, of course, was interviewed, and Warren Barton on more than one occasion had championed Les as a potential director of football. I've noticed he's been doing it on a few other shows as well. But I mean, Les has come out and said, that he's got the job to finish at Queen's Park Rangers. And from his perspective, he's happy with that. He's happy at QPR. He's gone down there. The job's not complete yet. He loves Newcastle. He had a great time, but he wants to finish, what he's got to do with Queen's Park Rangers before he looks at anything else. So a polite decline, of any potential job offer really there. But it's a nice, it's nice for him to comment, but obviously it's a polite no. He's staying at Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah, and look, Newcastle United will always be in the back of his mind, you know what I mean, because of how well he done here, and the fans love him, and he's a legend, you know what I mean. But he done tremendous for QPR, and for them to be giving him the opportunity and the chance to be a director of football and to have a plan and a project in place, Les being the type of guy he is, he would want to finish that, you know what I mean. He'd want to finish that project, whether it's going to take a year or two. You don't know, and it's nice to see that you've got other ex-players like Warren Barton that's come out in full support and trying to get Les to possibly come to Newcastle as a sporting director. But look, he come out and he could have just said no, do you know what I mean, not interested and that sort of thing. Look, politely said no, and he knows how much Newcastle United means to him, and it's a big club, do you know what I mean? So you can't decline it so much where they don't come knocking again. And hopefully one day he will come back to Newcastle as whatever figure it is, because he's got the knowledge, he knows the city, he knows the area, and the fans are behind him as well. And I think this is what that football club needs.
How important is it to have football people involved with a football club, away from the first team, because it's something that we've certainly lacked under the Mike Ashley era?
I think it's very important, especially having players that have played for the club and know the area, know the fans, because it's the communication with the fans. You know yourself, when you go out and about and you're going to Asda or Tesco's, you see a player, you're going to ask questions. If you see more public players that have played for the club, ex-professionals, you're going to get more information out of them about what's going on, and you're going to get more players that, if they have an ambassador role, they're going to go to fans forums and find out what we need to do to try and improve the noise at St James's Park and the safe standing and that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not coming from a fans group that somebody's heading it that the club don't listen to. If an ex-player is going to these fans forums and speaking on behalf of the football club, this is which way the club's going, the direction of the club's going, I think a lot more fans will appreciate it and it'll be helpful for them. They won't get knocking on the door, they won't be upset, what's going on here, what's going on there, because they'll know in the back of their minds exactly such and such has come to our forum. He's told us the plans, he's told us what's going to happen. Let's stand by him and stick to the plan. So I believe it would be great, and it would definitely benefit Newcastle United, because look, even myself, I get asked loads of questions about what's going on at the club and stuff like that. And just because I have a couple of mates at the club that think I can give everything away, and it's not my right to do that at this moment in time. It's not my right to say what's happening with the club and what's happening, what's not happening. But I believe if the takeover does happen, I think it would be a great recommendation and a great honour for players to do that. You look at Warren Barton, I'm pretty sure there's a Newcastle United supporters club in America. He could be the ambassador for Newcastle United in America. You've got Rob Lee, who's in London, do you know what I mean? you've got all these big name players that were superstars for the football club that would actually work for the club as an ambassador role. I think it would be a great idea.
It was the late, great Joe Harvey's birthday anniversary this week, and of course, the anniversary of that wonderful night at Pest Dozer when Newcastle United won the Fairs Club back in 1969. Can you really believe, Michael, with the support that Newcastle United has, with the money that's gone through the club coffers, with the players that they've had at that ground, wearing that famous black and white shirt, that it's over 50 years since they won a trophy?
You can't believe it, Steve. Whenever I talk to people about Newcastle United, they always talk about the entertainers in the team that was in the late 90s and how they didn't win the league when they were 12 points clear and that sort of thing. Everybody remembers it. Do you know what I mean? It's a shame that Newcastle United have not won some, not just for the football club, but for the fans. I think the fans deserve it. You get fans. I remember going to Wembley when we got beat off Chelsea and we got beat off Arsenal. I remember going to Wembley watching Alan Shearer's first game against Man United in the pissing down rain and getting absolutely battered. And when Shearer signed, I thought, this is it, we're going to win something. Even though it was a charity shield, I thought we were going to win something. But I just hope it happens, and I hope that when the takeover does come, we get the right players in the club, and I believe we will win something, even if it's the old so-called Carling Cup. If we win, so it's a trophy. Do you know what I mean? The fans would go absolutely mental if they won a trophy. We've been so close at times, and hopefully, fingers crossed, in a year or two we can actually win something. Because look, you watch them players, and you watch Joe Harvey when lifting the trophy. It's a great achievement. I've spoken to my dad about it, and he said to me, it's just a shame that you haven't been able to see that happen. The only thing I've seen happen is 92, 93 season, watching the old First Division when Newcastle won the First Division, and running along Gosforth High Street chasing after the team bus, celebrating with them. And look, if they won something, it would be magnificent, and I honestly think the fans deserve it. They travel in the numbers, they turn up in the numbers, and they deserve more than what they get. I mean, Mike Ashley destroyed the club for the last 10 years. That could have been built, could have been building something. Hopefully there's brighter things to come, Steve.
We've already mentioned Barleza, but there's also young Allen and Watts who've also been talked about as potential squad members and getting a chance for a run out, in the closing games of the season. Certainly getting the opportunity to have an opportunity to train, etc., with the first team. And once these players get their opportunity, what advice would you give? You've been in that boat as a young player coming through the various levels, and then when you get that step up into the first team, what advice would you give them?
I think they've got to enjoy it. They've got to grab it with both hands, because you only get one chance, Steve. And if you don't take your chance, it's finished. And that's some regrets that I look back on. But look, these are the talented young players. Obviously, they've been on loan. They've worked the trade in the lower leagues where you need to be, and you need to get toughened up. Now, if they get the chance, they've got to stand up and be counted, and they've got to be reliable, and they've got to earn the trust of the manager and the rest of the fellow players, because that's what will come down to. Do they trust you on the ball? Are they going to give you the ball and that sort of thing? And if they trust you, then you're going to make it as a player, and it does go a long way. Obviously, the more local lads there is at the football club, the better it is for Newcastle United. I remember Sir John Hall once saying he wants 11 Geordies at the football club. I think he probably had 4 or 5 at one point. Hopefully, in the next few years, the academy can start producing a lot more better players.
We've talked about Sir Bobby Robson in the past, and not sure whether you'll have watched it, obviously being in a different country, but if you get a chance to watch BBC iPlayer, Gary Lineker did a wonderful programme that was broadcast last night called The Road to Turin, which had himself, Paul Parker and Terry Butcher on. There was also some Also, some great cameos from World Cup 1990 and interviews with Toto Scalacci, complete with hair, who was obviously the golden player that year. And Roger Miller, who still doesn't look much over 42. Never know what his true age was. But I mean, that programme essentially was great. There were some great clips of Gaza, some great clips of Sir Bobby Robson. But just want to finish today's show just with your memories of Sir Bobby, because obviously you had that time with him, you know, which was very precious for you at the club. I know I valued any second that I spent in Sir Bobby's company. I valued it tremendously, and it's always one of those times you get a tear in your eye when you see them, because you'll flash back to something that happened with you and a memory that you had with him. So what's your memories of Sir Bobby Robson, the man who almost won us the World Cup in 1990?
I remember, Steve, I was a young player, and when I went on loan to Watford, it was only a month at the time, and I scored 4 goals in one game against Burnley, and we played in the semi-finals of the FA Cup against Southampton. And I remember speaking to Bobby on the phone, and I said to Bobby, look, obviously I've done well at Watford, but I'm starting in the semi-finals. If we make it to the final, would you allow me to continue my trade and play for Watford for another month and play in an FA Cup final? And he said to me, he says, look, I want you back at Newcastle. I want to play you towards the end of the season and give you a chance and that sort of thing. And I was like, Gaffer, come on, it's an FA Cup final. I'd never get this dream before, and as a Geordie boy, it means a lot to me. And he just changed his tune straight away. He was like, look, son, I know it's a dream, and yeah, if you go and beat the Saints, you can. I'll let you go on another month, but you're not signing for Watford and that sort of thing. He was brilliant with me. And at times, Steve, I was worried to go knock on his door and go and see him, because look, you walk in his room, I didn't know what to say, do you know what I mean, because of who he was. And he was a special person. He was sitting there behind his desk just looking at me, waiting for me to speak. And I was 17, 18 at the time, and I'm thinking, what do I say to him? Do you know what I mean? I've built up the courage to go, and been lying in my bed the night before, right, I'm going to go in the gaffer's office, I'm going to say, well, I'm not playing in the first team, I want to go out on loan. And I got to his door and I was just like starstruck, do you know what I mean? It was that type of person, and that's what he did to people. When we had team meetings and all the lads were having a laugh and it was loud and everything, he would walk in the door and it was silent. People had respect for him. The aura, what he brought to the football club, and I've spoken about it before. I think if it wasn't for him, Alan Shearer wouldn't be Alan Shearer at Newcastle United. He would have been long gone. For what he'd done for Alan's career and what he'd done for Newcastle United when he was at the football club was fantastic. And look, you just need to listen to what Jose Mourinho and Sir Alex Ferguson and, like you said, Scalacci, all these people are saying about him. Nobody has a bad word to say about him. He was such a wonderful human being. And whenever people talk about Bobby Robson, I smile, and I'm just honoured that I can say to people, he gave me my first start for Newcastle United. He gave me my first start in world football. Do you know what I mean? If it wasn't for him, I might have not been a professional footballer. And I've got to give the guy credit for allowing me to fulfil my dreams.
Last point, Michael. Sunderland didn't come up, mate. Finished their lowest position ever in history. Not looking good, is it, for our neighbours?
I don't think so, no. Obviously, when Stuart Donald took over, he gambled to try and get promoted in the first season. Obviously, the gamble didn't pay off, and now they're struggling. It's a shame, because as a fan, you want to be playing against them. Do you know what I mean? As soon as fixtures come out, you want to be, when we play Sunderland, when's the local derby? I don't think we're going to see that for a long time now, until they sort themselves out. And for what's happening at that football club, look, it's sad, you know what I mean? It's sad for any football club for that to happen. Like, you look at Bury and Macclesfield, it's sad what's happened. And I think Sunderland could go down that route, you know what I mean? They're going to get less and less fans turning up. Players won't want to play there. It's going to be tough for them to try and get promoted, because they're not going to be spending a lot of money like what some clubs are spending.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation. I've got to be honest. I'm in the same boat as you. You know, you want to play them. Those games are fantastic, and they're not great when you're losing the games. But you know,
Yeah.
back in your era as a Newcastle player, you know, we went down there and we had that wonderful day where we won 4-1. You came off the bench and scored, and of course Alan, you know, scored what turned out to be his final game in a black and white shirt. Those kind of days, anybody who was down there that day and remembers what that feeling was like, you know, there's very few, you know, memories and very few games and feelings come as close to winning those games.
Well, you want memories from football, don't you? And when you're growing up as a kid, the kids over the last 5-6 years, they haven't got these memories. Do you know what I mean? And they might not have them for the next 10 years. And to go through your lifetime and say to people, well, I didn't actually see a local derby between Newcastle and Sunderland, I think it would be heartbreaking, because they're what the making of football is.
Yeah.
Wasn't that long ago when no fans were allowed at either stadium, and that's what derby's all about. That's what the rivalry was all about. And I hope that they can come back up and get back in the Premier League. A lot of fans might not like me saying that, but I just want to go to the match and enjoy a local derby, because it's the buzz of going to a game. It's the buzz of leading up to the game. The week before, I know what it was like as a player, and the players will enjoy it. The week before, 2 weeks before, we've got Sunderland in a couple of weeks. We've got to do the damage. We've got to beat them. And that's what happens. The whole city shuts down. And I don't think it's going to happen for a long, long time. It's just it's sad, and it's a shame that's happening in life.
Yeah, it is, mate. Well, we'll finish this week's show there, mate. And next week, of course, a week on Sunday, Newcastle play their first game. So if we can get you out of bed, I think, and do you can be the person who does the pre-match with me, and we'll talk about what's likely to happen, who's likely to play, and what the prediction is, and then we can get hammered. We can get hammered when we're on the following week when we've got the score on.
Yeah, now Steve, I'd love to do that. Obviously, it's a big thing. Do you know what I mean, with the Premier League kicking off and the games coming up? But no, I'll be watching the game, and I'll be back in Newcastle United as much as I can, kicking every ball in the room and stuff like that. But no, I'd love to come on. I love coming on and speaking my mind and letting fans hear my point of view and sort of thing. And I love chatting with you as well, mate.
Good stuff, mate. Great stuff. Well, you have a good week, and fingers crossed that this takeover goes through. And I'll speak to you next. I'll speak to you next Sunday, mate. Take care.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks a lot.